All right, we're taking a look at some of the items over at the Gear website store. Some new items, some prototypes, some pre-production runs, actually, some samples, the first things that came out of the machine. And I figured I posted some pictures. There's no way to do them justice. We'll do some video just to see all the angles on them and then explain what we're looking at here. So, I'm a big fan of plastics and I'm a big fan of ammunition, two of the things that I've been interested in for a long time. I've had an idea going around in my head how to display, how to have an interesting ammunition collection that's in a different format, and came up with this idea of casting a magazine in clear plastic and then having the rounds in there. So this is an example. This is prototyping and testing. So it's just one set of ammo in there. But imagine if this was an actual collection with a bunch of specimens in here. I think this would be an interesting way. Now, for a true ammo collector, not the best idea. You're never going to get the ammo out of here again. However, for someone who is just trying to have an interesting collection or have something unique that represents a lot of things, like a lot of different countries or eras or even calibers, really, I thought this might be an interesting way to go. So I needed to do a couple of things. Learn how to create the molds inexpensively so I can make a bunch of them. This is an AK-47 magazine, but my goal is to have 1911, AR, all the other things from the different calibers I collect. And so I need to come up with a way to make the molds so that I'm not going broke or making poor product. And then cast the plastic. So I've poured some plastic here out of a couple of different mold prototypes. We'll talk about those in other videos. But these are things that might get thrown away by a professional or might be put on the shelf so I could use them as reference. Actually, I probably wouldn't sell these in the best scenario. I would just have these so I can monitor what worked and what didn't. And they're not perfect, so a lot of people wouldn't put anything out there that isn't perfect so that they get a bad reputation. I could care less about a reputation. I'm not trying to do anything here other than have fun with ammo collecting and with some plastics. However, there's this 2A rally coming up in November, and that's a thing that's kind of off the schedule. It's happened out of nowhere. Most of us haven't budgeted for it, and those of us that are across the continent from where the rally is going to take place are stuck out of luck. So I'm offering these prototypes, these pre-production runs on the Gear website store as an effort to fundraise to get to that rally. I don't need to be there. I don't have any delusions that it's going to be better off with me there. However, I would like to witness it. I'm a big fan of Second Amendment advocacy, and this is a unique event, and it's not something I can just do casually. So it's something I need to actually put a lot of resources into, and that's one of the reasons I'm putting these up on the Gear website store. So that being said, this isn't something I plan to put out or that are perfect, but let's take a look at them. As I mentioned, the concept there, first I needed to make some molds. So I have a yellow mold and an orange mold, and this was the first pour out of the yellow mold, and you can see that it's not great. The rib didn't come out well. It's not fully, it's thin. You can't really tell from the video, but it's as you see some of these others, this is a really bad rib. I learned a lot of lessons here as far as arrangement. You can see that there's well, this one's actually pretty decent. Some of the others I've got some errors in the way that I poured them and stuff, but the proof of concept here worked. And I created the mold out of a magazine that had a lot of rust on it, and the magazine was in poor quality. This is actually a really good cast of a bad magazine. So I was really impressed with this. Another part is learning how to finish it all and how to get it ready for display or for use. And that was the first pour. So then we have an orange mold, and this was the first pour out of that mold. And again, this is actually a pretty decent cast, but because the magazine was all rusty and grody, all of those bad features came through in the mold, and so they come through on the plastic pour, and it doesn't look that great. So I definitely need to make some new molds, but again, I'm learning the process of molding and how to make that mold work with the plastic. So they all broke down here. I need to, when I build the things, I'll reinforce them. So I'm learning a lot from these pre-productions, and I guess this is the one I was thinking of. You can see that the rounds aren't necessarily level. I think that's my table more than anything. But again, this is why these are not perfect. Now this one is a little thicker than that first pour. This was one of the yellow mold, and one of the ways you can tell is one of them goes one way, the other one goes the other way. The lips are up top here, base is down at the bottom. Ideally, I was going to stick them together, but you can see I'd have to really do some extra work to figure that out, but that's part of the process. But this one is a little thicker. I just put more polymer into this one, some more plastic into this one, and I like it better for sure. You get the rib, you can insert into a gun. Not ideal because it's not real strong, but it will look good for pictures or whatever. So that's the first two. Now here's something a little different. We'll talk about that one last. So after I poured the first ones, I poured a second time. And again, learning things about how the molds work. Got a much better pour. So you can see there's some learning curve there. Again, I didn't even realize this, so this is something I'll have to pay attention to next time. But getting the nice window side on one side, getting the nice detail of the magazine. I got good lip, and getting the lips all clear, getting the rib clear. That's some technique. That's a little bit of skill set. So I'm learning that, learning the molding and where to mask things off when I'm molding. So this second pour out of the yellow mold is my favorite, I think. This is really neat. Now my second pour out of the orange mold, I wanted to try something different. I knew that the back of the mold wasn't going to give me the clarity that I got from this better cast on the yellow. So I knew that I wasn't going to get good clarity. I wanted to try a double stack. So I put in twice the amount of ammo. So this one more actually duplicates a real mag. And I've got some other ideas for that. But it's much heavier. And I think it came out pretty well. I got rid of the problem with the bubbles, I think. I'm working with some of the people that do this professionally to ask questions and tips, thanks to Crafted Ballistics over on Instagram. We'll link to their channel. They're professionals. They do this for a living. I'm playing around on a couple of different levels here, but I appreciate the community that we have that's willing to share tips and techniques. But you can see I've got a much better lug and rib and lips on this one. This one is really neat, but it's so packed full. I think I just like this one better. So I'm looking for some feedback on that, and I'll probably end up continuing on both of those paths. Now this one's a little different. On the yellow mold, before I poured plastic, the clear plastic, which it's a different characteristic, so it's just different to work with. I poured some white plastic, some uncolored plastic in there, and then created sort of a shell. Then I added rounds inside of the shell, and then the clear. So this is a completely different direction that I'm going to go with, another kind of arm from this concept. And this one isn't so much for collectors as it is for just plain old art. But my envision, what I'm planning to do here is something that can be used for pictures or just playing around or display. Where these, of course, you can see them from all directions. You can see the head stamps, you can see the projectiles and the cases and the sealant colors and all the fun stuff that makes ammo collecting interesting. This is more of an art type of thing. So these are all going to be available at very high prices. Again, my goal here isn't to get these things out. In fact, I'd probably keep these on the shelves just for my own reference if I could. But I am trying to get to that 2A rally. So these will all be available. You'll literally get the first items that came out of the first molds, the second items that came out of the first molds, and then the first of this type of series. Also have some other things, some ideas for displaying a single round. Let's say maybe somebody's first bullet or a bullet that has some significance or something. I got the idea to do a cutout, almost like a cookie cutter. And again, this is a test of theory on pouring, on creating the blank. I cut the things out with the robot and then make the rubber molds and then pour the plastic into the molds and then dealing with figuring out how to get the ammunition in there right. So I've got a couple of these test runs where the bullet is not completely in, and that's because, again, I'm testing other things besides just the complete thing. I just didn't feel like wasting. This plastic actually cost some money, so I didn't want to waste time or plastic to complete these once I was, testing other things and really learning how to finish them. And again, thanks to the others that are out there that know how to do this. And this is more of what the finished product looked like. It's skewed a little bit, but it's completely in there. And again, the idea would be to have something to commemorate a single round or a round of some significance or something. So these are also going to be available on the site. And then lastly, I made some Gun Channels G's. And this is, just a little thing to have to remind you of the community. Got a couple of them there with 22s in them. And then one, of course, with the 40. So this is another concept, and we'll be making more of these. So this is some of the first items that come out of the Plastic Works over at gearwebsites.com. And again, some of the prototypes, proof of concepts, and really going to be turned into a crowdfunding campaign to get over to the 2A rally. So if you're interested in having some of the first items, some of the first AK art that comes out of the shop, you can grab literally some of the first. If you're just interested in the concept or having something neat, they're available at kind of a high price. And then if you're interested in seeing us get to the rally for our perspective on the whole thing, then consider it a crowdfund or consider it a crowdfunding thing. Looking forward to your feedback. Thanks for being flexible with the ways that people are trying to get to that rally. Really looking forward to it, whether or not we end up getting there. I really think it's going to cut some new ground in Second Amendment advocacy, awareness, and people's motivation. So thanks for your time. Looking forward to the comments. And as always, thanks for watching.